Yo, what's up, guys? We're back doing another video. Today, we are going to be doing Gold Knights from Saint Seiya, but instead, we're going to be picking characters from other anime to fill these roles. Now, before we get started, let's give a general overview about the type of characters that we're looking at. First thing, for a knight overall. First thing, I think number one key, loyalty. Someone, I don't know if obedient is the right word, but I can follow orders, like agreeable maybe is the word I'm looking for. Like someone who's who's put together, kind of, not too wild, I guess. Not too fly off the hand, someone put together maybe is kind of the person we're looking for overall. And then, of course, for each one, there's more specific character traits that we're looking for. So right off the bat, honestly, a lot of One Piece characters is going to be taken out of this just because they're too overly ambitious. And then a lot of villains, because that's another thing. You got to be a good person for the most part. There's some exceptions. We'll get to that later. And then, yeah, because you gotta be a good guy who's on the side of justice. Mostly. Anyway, without further ado, let's break it down, each individual one. First of all, of course, is the Aries Knight. Now, in each of these categories, I have, of course, the knight that they're, actually has that title. Just to show an example of who we're looking for. So we got Aries Mu in there. One guy, I got Kisuke Uehara. We've got Foxfire Kinemon. We've got Kite. We've got Leorio, and we've got what's his name? Oitsu Nishimiya, the sword guy from Bleach. I can't remember his name. I can't remember exactly how you pronounce his name off the top of my head. That doesn't matter. Anyway, the characteristics, other than of course the overall arcing ones that we've talked about earlier. The specific characteristics that we're looking for Aries Knight, I think wisdom. Aries Knight is always the one that fixes the armors. So I think kind of being handy, craft, like making things, can be part of it. Being smart, intelligence, I think is a certain aspect of it. So obviously, Kisuke, he makes a lot of things. He's a smart guy. He is a little bit too laissez-faire, kind of, than you'd expect a knight to be, but he can buckle down and be dedicated when the time comes to it. So that's why I did pick him, and he is going to be the one that I pick overall. But other people I consider, obviously Kinemon, he is smart, or at least that's his reputation or whatever. Kite, he's a smart guy. He's honestly, he kind of just looks like him, but I do think he would fit in a certain aspect. Leorio, he's a doctor. He's smart. Nishimiya, he fixes the swords and stuff, so it's very similar. But of course, we don't really know much about. I don't think his personality is a good fit overall. I think Kisuke would probably be the best fit for the Aries Knight. Moving on to Taurus. Now, Taurus is known for being physically the strongest and fastest of all the knights. Another attribute I would give to the Taurus Knight is being stubborn and resilient. And honestly, I think Chad was the guy coming into this, I think, fit it perfectly. I mean, of all of Ichigo's friends, he's probably the most loyal. He's a big dude, strong, athletic, etc., sturdy. I think the Raikage fits a little bit. I think Kirishima fits a little bit. All these were people I was considering. One person I never considered was Bellamy from One Piece. I know what you're thinking. He doesn't fit at all. But it just got in my head. I'm like, he's insanely loyal to Dofi, to an extreme. He was extremely stubborn and loyal to what's his name, Doflamingo. Pretty resilient. He stood up to Luffy's beating in Dressrosa. That was an intense show of resilience and determination for whatever. So he's, honestly, I don't think he is the best fit, but it just got in my head that I thought, it was an in the moment thing. I'm like, I think I am going to pick him for Taurus. I know, but I did pick him. Anyway, moving on. Gemini. Gemini is known to be the strongest of the 12 knights. Usually he's known as, it depends on the generation, I suppose, but more or less he's known as the strongest. But the biggest thing for him is kind of like the dual personality, good and evil. And there's a couple of guys like you see. I picked Gon. Real, had kind of when he's possessed by the elf was technically a double personality. Pain technically counts. I mean, he had like 6 different things. So that's not really split personality, but Gon, where he goes kind of snaps at the end of the Hunter x Hunter. But I think the best one is probably going to be Julius, for obvious reasons. Spoiler alert if you're not fully caught up with Black Clover or whatever. But he does fit it perfectly. I think that makes him fit it pretty perfectly. Another guy I was considering was Jalal from Fairy Tail, but I forgot to. I didn't put him in there. But anyway, moving on. The Cancer Knight. Now, usually they are known for essentially being like the worst, like both in terms of like personality and also strength. In most incarnations of the Knights of the Zodiac, the Cancer Knight usually is the worst. Both morally and again power wise. But actually, like in Lost Canvas, like Cancer Manigold is actually like really sick. Like he's like actually a really cool character. So basically, I was trying to think of like characters who were like villains, but also were like good guys that kind of went down the wrong path at certain points. So Geto was one guy I thought of, obviously. Obito, the pork guy from Black Clover, Kakyoin, Sasuke, kind of like those guys kind of fit. I think the best fits were Geto and Obito, and I picked Geto, but actually I'm retroactively swapping that out. I'm gonna actually pick Obito, even though Geto's in the. If you haven't noticed yet, on the left hand side is all the knights I'm picking. But anyway, I'm running out of time. I gotta speed this up. Leo Knight, basically main character vibes, kind of courageous, heroic, a little fiery, not wild, but can get a little fired up. Obviously a lot of main characters were in this category. But I'm picking Ichigo just because, I think he's a really selfless guy. I think he really fits well in this spot. But anyway, moving on. Virgo Knight is known as the knight that's like closest to God, which people usually think means like they're very strong, which they are. Like Virgo Shaka is probably one of the strongest knights ever. But it's also more so what that means is like they're like piety, like being in prayer and stuff like that. So I think Netero actually fits really well. You see, I didn't even consider anybody else. I just put Shun in there because he's supposed to be the future Virgo Knight or whatever. But anyway, moving on. Libra, wise, good judgment. I picked what's his name, Yamamoto. So, and again, we consider some of those other guys. Scorpio. Now this one seems a little weird one. I picked Chojo, which doesn't sound like it makes sense at first, but give me a second. I always see like the Scorpio Knight as like the most reliable, and the guy that kind of does like the dirty jobs, kind of, if that makes any sense. The jobs that no one else wants to do. So I feel like Chozo fits that. Again, also he's very loyal to his family, loyal to his brother. Which, speaking of his brother, I picked Itadori for Sagittarius. Sagittarius is very close to Leo as far as character traits. Only I feel like it's a little more selfless. Someone who's a little more, has that cog in the wheel mentality, kind of like Itadori. Plus, I picked 2 brothers back to back. I feel like it's pretty cool. Works out pretty well. Capricorn is known as the most loyal out of all the knights. So Zoro, I think, fits perfectly. Kubara also fits perfectly. Also, Capricorn is known for having the sword Excalibur. So 2 swordsmen works out really well. Aquarius, cool, calm, collected, does what has to be done, doesn't get too emotional. I think Byakuya fits perfectly. Nozel would have fit perfectly too, but I picked Byakuya. And then Pisces is pretty much just supposed to be the most beautiful knight. So someone who's like really obsessed with beauty. So yeah, I picked Yumi Chika. I think he fits the bill pretty well. Of course, Cavendish was also considered. But yeah, I had to kind of speed run this a little bit just so I get it done in 10 minutes for, the TikTok limit or whatever. But that's a list I got right there. Let me know what you think about it. Guys, listen. It took me hours and hours and hours to make up the materials I needed for this video. And I know what you're thinking. Come on, this is the type of video you could do in like 30 minutes. And it didn't take me long to make this list and pick out all the characters I wanted, for each night or whatever. The part that took me hours and hours to do is the next thing I'm going to show you guys. Is a little treat. Now, obviously, I picked every night for each, every character for each night category or whatever. But I thought it would be cool if I could have a visual representation of each character as that night. Like, Kisuke in the Aries armor and so on and so forth. But, obviously, I can't get pictures like that. So I decided I would make them. And that is what took me so long to get this video ready. First things first, I had to find, and there's tons of like AI art, like anime art apps or whatever. But as I found out, a lot of those apps aren't really made for this type of thing. They're made for a different sort of thing. If you catch my drift, to give an example, like when I said I was going to put, make a picture with a guy character, they were like, yeah, we don't really usually do that sort of thing, so. But first of all, it took me hours to find an app I can use. So shout out to the AI Mirror app, which is what I used, and it worked perfectly, I think. Some of them didn't come out as well as I would have hoped, but I will say that I like the way a lot of them turned out. So without further ado, let's get this started with Aries Kisuke. Now, I'll start out by saying, obviously I can't put, these aren't going to look like perfect or anything. But and I couldn't use it to make the armor look exactly the way the Aries armor and all the specific armors would look like in the show or whatever. But this did do a cool thing, is that it made it kind of like personalized to like each character. Like, for example, this kind of gives off the look of Kisuke's cloak that he usually wears, the sunglasses that he usually wears. So this one I think actually turned out really well. I think it looked pretty cool. Moving on, we've got Taurus Bellamy here. I think this one also turned out pretty cool. You can see it has this kind of trademarked vest that he wears. It's kind of gold and blue instead of straight blue, obviously, because it's gold armor. But I think this one also turned out pretty well. I like the way this one looks. Now, next we got Gemini Julius, which he was a particularly hard one to do, because for some reason the app wanted to change him into a black lady. I guess someone at Disney was working there, but anyway, so it took me a long time to get something usable for Julius. Obviously this is not the picture I was going with. I just wanted to show you guys how it turned out, kind of show that it wasn't very easy to make some of these. So this is one I actually did go with. Kind of ended up making him look kind of younger. So it kind of does look like the younger version of Julius a little bit. So, and for some reason they gave him a ball. There's supposed to be like an orb of like his magic or whatever in his hand, but it turned out being a ball. That's fine. It's better than, at least it kind of somewhat resembles him. So it's better than some of the other ones I got. I'll be honest, some of these I had to just go with the best I could do. I had to just settle for the ones that were, good enough or at least usable, to be honest. And you'll be able to see whenever we get to those ones. Now, here we got Cancer Obito. Now, I used the, the Ten Tails Jinchuriki version of him as the inspiration for this photo, as you can probably tell with the white hair and the staff or whatever. I tried to use like his normal form, or like his regular look or whatever. It didn't come out that great. This one I think came out the coolest. I think it captures that really tough look. So, and also I like the way the helmet came out, because that kind of does look like the Cancer helmet, or at least it resembles it a little bit. So I like the way this one ended up turning out. We move on to Leo Ichigo. This one is one of the ones I think worked out a little better. I mean, this one I think bears a pretty decent resemblance to Ichigo, and the armor kind of does look a little bit like the Leo armor. So I think this one is probably one of the ones I think worked out a little better than some of the other ones. I did have a little trouble getting into this the way it looks now. Yeah, I did have I went through some trial and error, but overall I think it worked out pretty well. Moving on to Virgo Isaac Netero. I think this one turned out really well. I tried to use the younger version of Netero, obviously made him look a lot younger, but I think that's fine. I think that works out well. This one I worked really hard on because I think the Netero Virgo kind of connection was one of the strongest matches among the 12 that I picked. So I especially wanted this one to look great, especially since I'm a big fan of the Virgo Knight and everything. So I think this one did come out. It is one of my favorite ones that I did. So yeah, I am pretty pleased about this. But this one did take a long trial and error, long time. There's a lot of not good ones. I'll say that much at least. Speaking of ones that gave me trouble, Captain Yamamoto here, I'm putting up this picture. It's the only time I'm putting up the picture that I used as the basis to make, these things, just to show you this is what I had, and this is what it came up with, and this is another one that came up with. Now I picked these two because these are the two absolute best. I mean, the first one is probably the best looking one, but it doesn't really look anything like freaking Captain Yamamoto at all. For some reason, it kept thinking his beard is like a cloth. So like half of them would just be like this wrapped up cloth face with like a freaking long cloth coming out of his nose. Like it looks so weird. Like these were the only two remember I told you earlier there's ones I struggled with, and I had to just say, forget it, I'll just go with the best ones. This is one of the ones I was talking about. I had to just say eventually, like, hey, I can't keep trying to do it, so it's not going to work. But anyway, we got Scorpio Chozo here. I really like the way this one turned out. Obviously, he doesn't look exactly the same. This would obviously be him if he was, fully human, not half curse, half human, or whatever you would classify him as. But anyway, I like the way this one turned out. That kind of thing, like chain-looking thing over beside his head, on top of his left arm, kind of reminds me of the scorpion thing. So I like the way that one turned out. And then speaking of I like the way it turned out, I like this way Sagittarius Itadori, Sagittarius Yuji turned out. I think this one looks pretty good. Obviously didn't get his hair right. There's some things that it just changes and I just can't get it to be right. But all things considered, I mean, I think other than the hair being a little bit off, this one did turn out pretty well, all things considered. Now we got Capricorn Kazuma Kuwabara here. I wanted to do two. I want to do Kuwabara and Zoro. This one looks pretty good for Kuwabara. It has a kind of more realistic looking pompadour and the energy swords or whatever. Now we got Capricorn Zoro. It doesn't have his like fully green hair. It has a little bit of green there at the bottom of the hair. Like I said, the hair was the biggest challenge. It would just change their hair and I just couldn't get it right. Or I'd get the hair right and the armor would look completely wrong. Or it wouldn't have armor or whatever. So yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges I had. Yeah, but moving on again, we got Aquarius, Byakuya. This one, turned out pretty good. And, it kind of, the wavy parts of the armor kind of captures, his captain's robe a little bit. And then we got, this one might be one of my favorites. We got Pisuke's Yumichika here. It has the roses, which is, as everyone knows, is a motif of the Pisuke's Knight, or it's not roses, but it's flowers, same thing. I think this one turned out really good. Finally, I also did Athena in the style of, I picked Noelle Silva from Black Clover. So this is just kind of like the regular picture of Athena, then I also have her in the battle armor. This one didn't come out turning out as good or whatever. The armor's kind of off, the hair color's a little off, but it's fine. Now, Noelle isn't the only one I did. I also picked Yoruichi from Bleach. Why did I pick Yoruichi? Mostly just because I just want to get a different feel. I picked Noelle because I thought she had a good match personality-wise. And then I picked Yoruichi just, to be honest, just because she was the only other female character I could think of who also had purple hair. So, which Athena and Saint Seiya had purple hair. So that's basically it. So that's just a regular picture, and then I got Athena battle armor mode. I think this battle armor looks way better. So what do you guys think about this Saint Seiya anime character series? Let me know if you want to see more like this in the future. Make sure to hit that like button and make sure to hit that subscribe button, please. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great